Venus Fridays. So let's talk about what's going on with the divine feminine this week and how we can tune into that energy. But this week is really more going to be about like moon, sun Fridays, because there's not a lot interacting with Venus this week. So here's just a way we can tune into the astrology that's happening this week. So yesterday was the solstice, right? June solstice. So summer for us in the northern hemisphere and winter for you in the southern hemisphere. And so let's just take a look at that for a second and see like where that happens in the sky. And then we'll talk about this amazing full moon today. And then I have a question for you about the moon interacting with Venus, because it's something I've been thinking about as I've been making these, and I would love to get your input. So let's start. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to look at the amazing software by stellarium.org, my favorite, as you know, if you've been watching me. Okay, so here is the moment yesterday of the June solstice, right? I left the constellations on so we could just see where that was happening at the sky. But this is the moment from where I am in Aspen, Colorado, of when the sun moved into Cancer, which it'll look like this for all of you. It just will be at different times of the day. So it could be at sunrise, it could be at sunset, or down below at midnight, right? But it's going to be right here on the hand of Orion. So I'm going to turn the sun off so we can see what's going on. And then boom, look, there's Mercury, Venus, right? Jupiter's not so far away. Mars is about to set. So I like to start with the sun on because it's the view that we see. And then remember, when we turn it off or when we're out there looking at the sun, wow, Venus is right there because Venus is in the underworld. Mercury's close by. Jupiter's not too far away, right? So when the planets are close to the sun, we can't see them, but they're obviously all still there, as well as all the constellations are still there. So first off, when we talk about the solstice yesterday, this is the point where the sun moves into Cancer, and it's on the hand or the club here in this software of Orion, which is this really special place in the sky. It's the place where we look out of our galaxy through. So it's called galactic edge, right? And I'm going to turn on this other line just so we can see the line of the Milky Way coming through. So see that orange line that just came on? That's called, it says it's the galactic equator. That's the path of the whole Milky Way that we look through. So I'm going to turn the ground off and span out a little bit. And the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because this is important. This is going to be on this line where this full moon is happening today. So here's the other side of the Milky Way here, galactic center, right? Between the stinger of the scorpion and the arrow of the archer. And so that is the path of the Milky Way that we see, that we look through, the orange line is, right? So I'm going to zoom back in and we're going to stay a little bit more focused on the solstice here for a second. But I just wanted to show that. So here's galactic edge, and on the other side is galactic center. So it's a pretty special thing that we're living during a time when the solstices occur on this what's called galactic cross of the Milky Way, where it meets the path of the sun, the yellow line, the ecliptic. And this is something that only happens where the June solstice is at galactic edge every 26,000 years. So halfway through, in 13,000 years, they'll flip. So the December solstice would be on the cross here. Does that make sense? And then the June solstice would be on that cross below. So anyways, the fact that it's on this special cross lends itself to we're in an unusual time where our solstices are occurring on this galactic cross. Okay, so I just wanted to show that, right? And then also here is another thing to talk about as well, and I'm just going to kind of bring this down so we can zoom in a little bit more closely and see right? It's on the hand of Orion here as we're moving into this twins constellation, also known as Gemini by astronomers. And here's the crab constellation, also known as Cancer by astronomers, right? Or also Vedic astrologers or constellational astrologers will call the crab Cancer, right? The lion Leo, the twins Gemini, here's the bull Taurus, right? And the solstices and the equinoxes are a great time to talk about the fact that tropical astrology, Western astrology, focuses on the signs being related to the seasons, right? So when the sun enters Cancer, it's the summer season in the northern hemisphere or the winter season in the southern hemisphere, right? So constellational art is mostly, but not exactly, based on when the sun has this backdrop of each constellation. So it'd be the sun would be in Gemini here. The sun would be in Cancer with the crab. The sun would be in Leo when it's crossing the bull. But it's not related to the seasons. And it's not a perfect system constellationally either, because not all of the constellations are exactly 30 degrees, which is what the signs are, right? So if we span over here and look at the priestess, or also known as Virgo, she's way bigger than 30 degrees. So even constellational astrologers won't say the sun is in Virgo the entire time the sun is crossing this constellation, right? Because they still break it up into 30 degrees, right? So it's not that like one is right and one is wrong and one is good and one is bad. They're just different, right? That's all. And I think it's a nice way to have like a both and, right? What does it mean for you if your sun is in Gemini or your sun is in Cancer, right? Both things, which is the situation for me, right? My birthday's coming up. My sun is in Cancer. So in tropical astrology, my sun is in Cancer, meaning I'm born just after the June solstice, seasonal time. But in constellational astrology, my sun is in Gemini, right? And so what do both those things mean to like help me have a richer and deeper understanding of my soul path and why I'm here? So I'm a big fan of both and rather than either or. But let's talk about tropical astrology, right? So here we have the sun entering Cancer for this June solstice. And the reason why these two types of astrology are not aligned anymore is because the seasons happen at a certain time and space, right? A certain thing is happening wherever we are, right? Your experience of summer starting could be completely different than mine, right? For me here, the rivers are super high. Most of the snow from up high on the mountains is gone, although I went on a hike yesterday and had to hike through a bunch of snow to get up to this like high alpine lake. So there's still a fair amount of snow, but the rivers are just raging. Everything's really green and lush from the rain and the snow melt that we've had. That's what really marks this June solstice, time turning to summer for me. And what does it look like where you are, right? Is it super hot right now? Are a certain type of plant or flower blooming? Or is it towards the end of fall and the leaves are falling and you can feel the first cold in the air because you're in the southern hemisphere, or maybe you're closer to the equator and it's just starting toward, you can feel the rainy season coming or the rainy season ending if you're in the northern hemisphere, right? Like it's just about what is your seasonal experience. And it's the path that the sun takes across the horizon, right? So right now, with the sun moving into Cancer yesterday, the sun is at the most northern point along the horizon. Whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern, it's the same thing. So it's the most northern point, and the December solstice is the most southern point, right? So this sun will rise and set to the north of west, and the December solstice will set and rise to the south of east or west. Sorry, I shouldn't just say west, right? East or west. So it's not like this, the sun only rises and sets, it's due east, due west on the equinoxes. Okay, so that's a lot of information, but we're going to keep on rolling. So let me know if you have questions. I can always like go into this more in another video as well. Okay, so I'm going to span out a little bit here, kind of bring us back into this horizon line here, the green line. And we're going to just look at the solstices and the equinoxes. So I'm going to just span out here, bring the whole sun, the whole circle so we can see it. I'm going to leave the galactic equator on so we can see the path of the Milky Way. But here's this time and date. So we're going to advance ahead to the equinox. I was going to say fall, but it's not always fall for everyone, to the September. I was like, what is the month? The September equinox, right? And here that is in the priestess constellation right there. So this is September 22nd, our upcoming equinox in September. And now let's go ahead a little bit more. And we're going to look at the December solstice, which is right here. Again, see, we're on that cross. We're just on the other side. So now we're in galactic center, looking into the thick part of the Milky Way, into the center of the galaxy, right? And then finally, we're just going to look at next March equinox here as well. And we can see that we'll just span in a little bit. And we can see here it is around this Fishes constellation, right? So I just wanted to kind of show you that maybe it doesn't all resonate. Maybe you don't completely understand all of it, but we'll just start planting these seeds and kind of building on it. But these are the places that the sun is in the sky when the seasons change for us. And that's what tropical astrology is really based on, this seasonal change. So here's the sun entering Aries at the March equinox and the start of spring or fall, depending upon our horizon. Okay, I'm just going to quickly take us back to where we are yesterday, and we'll go, span out, not in, and back to the horizon line here. Okay, so June solstice, all right? So let's advance a day. Now here we are to today. I'm going to get rid of this time and date. I'm going to do that. And we're going to span out, and we're going to see here is this full moon happening, okay? So it's actually happening a little, I'll just go ahead and make it like exactly so we can see where it is at the exact time where I am, so we can see that. And we'll go to here, just bear with me for a second. Okay, so here is the exact solstice, full moon tonight happening. Okay, so you can see here we have the sun is just about to set, right? So remember, there's the ground. I'm going to take the ground away. So the sun is about to set and the moon is about the same distance from rising, right? So that's what happens on the full moon. As the sun sets, the moon rises. Or on the flip side, as the sun rises, the moon is setting, because they're opposite each other in the sky. And that's what an opposition looks like, right? So when you think about like, oh, you have Neptune opposite your sun, or Neptune opposite your Venus, this is what it looks like, opposite in the sky. One is rising as one is setting, right? That kind of an energy. So that's one thing that's cool. But then also here we have this amazing time where the moon is this is a Capricorn full moon, and it's out of bounds, right? It's out of the boundaries of where the sun rises and sets. So when we're just talking about the solstice, and when you see the sun rise or set, it's as far north as it goes, as it can be throughout the whole entire year. That's what solstice is like a standing still, where the sun has been moving in this northerly direction ever since the December solstice, and it kind of stands still, and then the pendulum, it starts to swing back towards the south, right? So it's at the extremes of the longest day or the shortest day, depending upon a horizon. So the moon is going to rise and set way outside of that boundary, much further south, because it's Capricorn. So it's near the December solstice point we talked about, we just looked at, right? The moon is there. So the moon is going to rise and set like super far south, way beyond where the sun can rise or set, right? So it's this kind of wild card energy. And this is not something that like happens like every year throughout our lives. Not every Capricorn full moon does this. We are in this particular like lunar standstill time. That's why a lot of people have traveled to Scotland, right? Kaylin, who I teach Venus alchemy with, has gone to Scotland to watch the moon walk across the land, because it's so far out of the boundaries of where the sun can go that it's literally just walking across the land. It's not as high as the sun can go. So again, maybe it's a lot of information I'm throwing at you today, especially if you're new to these things, but just know this is a really special full moon where it's really considered out of bounds, and it's out of the boundaries of like our normal solar sun reality. So it's an amazing time. I love the full moon as a time of celebration, right? There's a lot of emphasis in our current time around the full moon is you want to release things and let go of things. And that can come after the full moon for me, when the moon starts to lose its light and moves into that waning phase. But I like the celebration aspect of the full moon because it's amazing. We want to be outside and relishing in the energy of it. And this is a great full moon to start checking out these lines along your horizon line. So if you can, see where the moon rises or see where the moon sets, and take notice of where it is. Like, pick a marker on your horizon line, write it down, save it, and then notice when we get to the December solstice, the sun won't even come close to that point. But in years to come, the moon won't go so far away from the sun. So it's just, all of this is to say, it's a very special full moon that's happening tonight for me in Colorado, and it's obviously at a different time. It'll be happening around the same time for all of us, but it may not be night. It could be morning for you, or the middle of the day, or the middle of the night, etc. Okay, so next, my question is, so then on Saturday, tomorrow, I'm going to bring the date time back up. I'm going to move it over here. We're going to move forward a day. Now the moon is opposite Venus, right? And this is my question for you, right? So, I tend to talk about, because the moon is going to touch off every single thing in the sky every month, because it moves around the whole yellow circle, the whole ecliptic, every single month. So it comes into a conjunction, trine, sextile, squares, opposition with every single planet, right? And I'm like, how do we deal with that kind of energy? It feels like a lot every month to feel like the moon comes into these geometric relationships with every single planet. Like something's happening every day. I mean, like if you have some kind of a book, there's bunches of different books that tell you about the different aspects that are happening every day. Like the moon will be doing a bunch of things every single day. And that feels like a lot to me to be conscious of, tuned into, feel, experience. So lately I've been feeling more about like the moon is really powerful when it comes into the conjunction, when it meets exactly with the planet, with the exception of the sun, because obviously the full moon is a pretty magnificent thing that we see and feel, right? We feel it in the tides, we feel the pull because it's the closest celestial body to us. And also the squares when we have the half moon, right? It's like they're at the sunrise or sunset up on high in the sky. It's a beautiful sight to see. The moon is always impacting us and drawing our attention to it when we see it. So I think the moon is in like its own category. So my question is, what do you think about like the moon opposite Venus? Or the moon is then going to quickly come into opposition with Mercury. Can you see that here? Here's the moon. I'm just going to click on it so you can kind of see the little red lights around it. And opposite the sun yesterday, Venus today, and then Mercury next, right? So how do you experience that? Do you feel like the moon opposite, square, trine, sextile, all of the planets has a big impact for you? I'd love to hear because I'm starting to lean more into, other than the sun, the moon is really all about activating when it's in conjunction with something, in a meeting with, coming close together with it, like the new moon with the sun. And obviously, right, I teach at Venus Alchemy all about the moon coming into conjunction with Venus is when we move through the chakra gates, following that oldest story we have written down about the Queen Inanna going through those 7 gates, right? Inanna is Venus. That's what archaeoastronomers figured out. The whole story is the telling of the Venus cycle, right? So when Venus meets with the moon is an incredibly powerful time, or when Venus meets with Mercury, it's an incredibly powerful time. But I don't know about the opposition or the sextile or the trine. So comment and let me know what you think, because I would love to hear from you, because this is something I've been kind of experimenting with in my alchemical astrology practice. Okay, so a couple more things and then we'll close it out for today. So thanks for bearing with me. I hope this has been like helpful, good information to kind of start to understand about the solstices, the equinoxes, and this very special Capricorn full moon. So we have the moon will meet with Pluto on Sunday, which Pluto we don't have on here. I could bring it up. Let's just do that since we're here looking at it. Oh, and then it makes everything get really all turned around, which is thing that can happen with this software really quickly. So I'm going to kind of come back to where we were. So again, the green line is the ground, right? Turning that on, turning that off. And here's Pluto, right? With the red lines, the moon comes into the conjunction with Pluto on Sunday, right after the moon moves into Aquarius. So I think Sunday could have an interesting dichotomy of energy, because Aquarius is not an emotional based kind of sign, right? Aquarius is an intellectual, air, consciousness, awareness focused sign. Pluto, on the other hand, is our underworld planet that's all about feeling transformation through feeling emotional type of experiences, right? It teaches us growth through the feeling body. Aquarius could care less about the feeling body. So it'll be interesting to have an Aquarius moon come into conjunction with Pluto. What will we be feeling? Will we be wanting to run more away from our shadow and kind of into that Aquarius kind of shadow of spiritual bypass? Or are we going to be kind of, wrestling with like, or are we going to be getting more awareness around our shadow and the healing work that we've done, are doing, want to do, right? It'll be interesting to see how we experience that. I'm not a predictive astrologer. I'm more like, here's the opportunities. we'll all experience it really differently based on our own charts, okay? So then on Tuesday, the 25th, the moon moves into Pisces. So we'll just advance. We're going to get rid of Pluto here, and we're just going to advance a couple days. And here now we'll span out a little bit more and kind of see the chart. So when you're looking at a printed astrology chart, it's essentially the yellow line. That's the circle that you're looking at, right? And here's the horizon line. The ascendant is where the green line meets it over here, and the descendant. And here's the midheaven and the IC, the home and roots, right, in the chart here. So this is what we're looking at here. So the moon will move into Pisces here in the water bearer constellation. And now the moon moves into, following Aquarius, into a more emotional, but also can be kind of dreamy, even a little bit, it can even go towards kind of the delusional side on the shadow side, but also the visionary on the higher vibration side of it, right? So something to just kind of play around with, like, how do you feel as the moon moves through different signs, right, through the month? That's a great thing to chart and keep track of in your life. And then we are going to see finally on Thursday, the 27th, we're going to have, it happens a little bit earlier, so I'm just gonna, this software can get like crazy quickly. So, but anyways, you could see the moon came across Saturn. Yeah, let's just go ahead and advance that into the sky. And just bear with me for a second. We're going to kind of go to the time that it's actually occurring, which is at like, and then I realize this is like all big all over the place. So just kind of stay with me. I'm going to put the ground back on so we just kind of orient ourselves that way. And here is Saturn and the moon coming together. So it's something that you could see through the night, right? If you're out here, it is like 4 a.m, depending upon where you are, this is something that you might see throughout the night of Saturn meeting with the moon. So where's the moon in the sky? Look for Saturn to be real close if that's something that you have been interested in discovering. Where's Saturn, right? Okay, so that's a lot. That's what's going on this week. So the moon coming with Saturn, the moon highlighting, activating Saturn. So Saturn on Thursday, it's that kind of energy that is the contraction, which is not a bad thing, right? Poor Saturn gets this like bad rap where it's like Saturn's bad and Jupiter is good, right? Contraction's bad and expansion is good, but they're not. They're both like, they're very objective kind of planets, right? Expanding something that's not working well doesn't necessarily feel good. And the contraction that Saturn offers, the gift that Saturn offers us is, as the walls start closing in, we go, I don't want to waste my time doing this thing anymore. It's been kind of bugging me, but it hasn't been enough to really like inspire me to make the change. Saturn comes in and it's like, ooh, yeah, not doing that anymore. I want to take that energy, reclaim it, and put it towards something that really does light me up and is working for me. So the moon coming together with Saturn on Thursday could highlight some of those things for you in your life. Like, where am I bleeding off energy that I don't want to be? Right? Maybe it's like I'm eating junk, or this thing at work, or I need to set this boundary, or a multitude of different ways. But that's something to pay attention to on Thursday. Okay. And then the very last thing, I'm going to stop my share and talk about the aromatherapy because I've been asked to. So, if you're not into aromatherapy, you're welcome to split now. But if you're interested in, I was thinking it'd be cool with all this moon activity, this Capricorn out of bounds full moon, to talk about a moon essence. And Clary Sage is a beautiful essential oil that is associated with the moon. So it has a very, there's a sweetness floral component to it, but it's very subtle. It's much more earthy smelling, but kind of like a earthy floral, like a hummus, like dirt kind of smell with a subtle floral smell. It's very relaxing. It's calming. It's salvia is what sages are. So like sage true is an essential oil. Um, there's different ones. So anyways, it's in the mint family. So Clary Sage is one that's really known to be powerful for women with our moon cycles, right? I think that's part of why Clary Sage is so associated with the moon, is because it's one to really help us with hormonal balancing throughout our moon cycle, right? Not just for when we're having our period, but throughout the whole cycle to like balance the hormones, calm, bring them into more harmony so that our moon cycle can be more harmonious for us. And this is an amazing one that I use a lot going through menopause because it's just a support to women all the way around. I love to use it on my tummy and use it on a regular daily basis while I was transitioning and going through things. Or if you have issues that you're going through hormonally, or you just want to tune into that moon energy and connect with that as you're paying attention to the moon cycle, Clary Sage is a beautiful one for that. Okay, thanks for being with me. Thanks for listening. Happy Venus Fridays, and I will see you next week.